We are unpacking some of the, I don't know, it's a bit of a post-mortem from the Ole Miss Florida game on Saturday. But let me just finish where I was before the deal. We're not ripping anybody's head off and shoving it through sheetrock this time. It's just, I just wanted to start with the whole, yes, it was not a good finish for Jackson Dart, but for the people that are like, Jackson Dart cost Ole Miss. Nah, hold on now. Ole Miss isn't in that position without Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart has been everything you could have asked for. It was his first multi-interception game in 2 years. So it's not Jackson Dart. It was offense. It was coaching. It was individual players. It was special teams. I'm sure there's something defense could have done better, but basically the defense played well enough for you to win.
Again.
That's every game that, not the same situation because Ole Miss they're better than they were, that State was. But it's Miami State's 18 team, more hits first year. Defensively, they did enough to win every game they played. Ole Miss could be undefeated.
Yeah, but this is a good offense.
That's the difference, is that there are times where this offense has been really, really good.
It's inconsistent, and that's the thing here. So I think it's less about the Florida game and more about big picture, but you can copy and paste what we said after Kentucky and LSU and apply it to the Florida game. What did we talk about on Friday? The things that Ole Miss could not do if they wanted to win. They did all of those things. Early drops, not executing on fourth down, missed a field goal, dropped a punt. All of those things happened, and it's the same thing that plagued them against Kentucky, and it's the same thing that got them beat in Baton Rouge. Where would this program be without Pete Golding? That's the question I had last night on the podcast. That's the theme of the program moving forward, regardless of Friday's result, is there needs to be some reflection on the part of Lane Kiffin about what they're doing offensively, staff members, and all of it. Because for multiple years now, defense has largely been the consistent good side of the ball for Ole Miss. And that's weird to say when Lane Kiffin is the head coach of the program. But think back to last year. What won the Egg Bowl? Defense. What beat Arkansas? Defense. What beat Tulane? Defense. They gave up 14 points in Jordan-Hare last year until the final second when Hugh Freeze was stat padding on prevent defense. Defense is what won the Auburn game. They played good enough defense in Tuscaloosa to win. The offense didn't show up that day. It's the same thing this season. Every single week, you have gotten a quality defensive performance good enough to win a game. And they've lost 3. Defense has been consistent every week. They had a bad game, quote unquote, on Saturday. Florida had, 14 possessions and scored 3 touchdowns. 3.8 yards per carry and 180 yards passing. That's a bad day for this defense, but more importantly, it's consistent. You know exactly what you're getting from the Ole Miss defense every week. And that side of the ball is built the same way as the offense. Transfers everywhere. The entire defensive line, sans Perkins, transfers. Both linebackers, transfers. Best cover corner, transfer. The opposite corner, transfer. John Saunders had a really nice season, transfer. And it's these guys that, whether it was true or not, were rumored to be trouble elsewhere. Like Daughtery was trouble at Clemson. Comes to Ole Miss, plays great. Out of trouble. Princely Uman Mielen, I know there was videos of him kind of losing it after the game against Florida, but he was trouble at Florida, elite player. Walter Nolan, trouble at Texas A&M, elite player. Pete Golding's side of the ball has been consistent and reliable all season. The offense is quite the opposite. Second half offense for 2 years for Ole Miss has been bad, but especially this year. They scored in their 3 losses 1 second half touchdown in their 3 losses.
Is that real?
That is real.
Ooh.
1 second half touchdown in 3 losses. They have shown you an incredibly high ceiling, but a very, very low floor. And most importantly, that's the side of the ball where all the drama is. That's where all the stuff happens. The running back position this year and the stuff around it has been a joke. Been an absolute joke, and they're insulting your intelligence with the answers about it lately. Last year, the Judkins drama. But it's not just the running back room. Michael Trigg, that was an issue. Cycling offensive line coaches, firing one after spring practice, the Mason Brooks deal, Zachary Franklin, help me out, the Texas A&M transfer wide receiver that didn't work out.
Chris
Marshall. all of the drama, all the stuff, Spencer Sanders, all the weird things that have happened in this program, all of the inconsistency that has happened, the thing that's preventing them from going from good to great is that side of the ball.
It's got to go, I guess.
But
sold me, Borky.
That side of the ball, though, is where Lane Kiffin lives, right? That's his thing. And you know that he's good at it. Anybody saying that he's not a good offensive coach is being foolish. But there needs to be some reflection on why is it that the defense is what has been the stable, solid, elite side of the ball, and the offense can score 1 second-half touchdown in your 3 losses against not good teams.
You know, you look at the 2 late interceptions, and you can't help but scratch your head a little bit. Less so on the last one. I mean, that was a combo route, and there was a little miscommunication. But it's game 11 of the year. You can't afford to have miscommunication on a combo route when you got a playoff berth hanging in the balance. But to throw into triple coverage, it was you just looked at it and you said, why? Because if you go through the way that drive was unfolding, Ole Miss was moving the ball. And they were moving the ball in chunks of 10, 12, 15 yards. It wasn't 30 and 40-yard plays, but that's okay, especially with the amount of time that you had left. Frankly, if you score there, you want it to be with as little time left in the game as possible, and you're playing for overtime. And if you score to send it to overtime, you probably feel pretty good about the momentum that you've got because the defense in the second half did a really, really good job. I mean, think about it. After the first interception, and there's 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes left in the game. Florida, or maybe less than that. Maybe it's right at 2 minutes that's left, just over 2. And Florida goes 3 and out, and Ole Miss uses its timeouts, and they get the ball back. Yeah. And then they march it to midfield, and it's like, okay, you can continue to march this. To me, though, there are a couple of things that really stand out. 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago now, when Ole Miss played Georgia, you guys remember what I said on Monday after that game? I said I don't mean for this to sound like I'm talking down because I'm not. It's a compliment. Hey, Dad, do you remember the word that I used to describe Lane Kiffin in that ballgame?
I don't.
I said it was the most mature game he had ever coached because he didn't, when there were points there to be taken, he just took them. Kicked a field goal. Kicked another field goal. Oh, there's a touchdown. Kick another field goal. There's a touchdown. Kick another couple of field goals. And when you look up at the end of the day, you've got an 18-point win, a 3-score win against the top 5 team in the country. Why? Because you took points when they were available. What would have happened in that Georgia game if instead of kicking field goals, Ole Miss had said, let's go for it, and then hadn't gotten it? Well, you hand momentum to the opponent. You give a defense that you're having success against confidence, and maybe that confidence transfers over to the offense. But you never gave Georgia the chance to get that confidence because every time they looked up, there were more points on the scoreboard. So Ole Miss decides to not take points early to take what would have been a 3-0 lead. They miss a short field goal. And look, it's been a really good year for Caden Davis overall. But of his 5 field goal misses, 3 of them are unbelievably significant. One that could have sent the Kentucky game to overtime, a chip shot in Baton Rouge in a game that went to overtime and you lost, and the short field goal this weekend, that if you've got those 3 points, the end of the game looks different, and you're not feeling perhaps like you've got to go for it on 4th down to score a touchdown, because if you got those 3 points early and you start watching the scoreboard as the game unfolds, you realize this is a game where points matter. This is a game where possessions matter. You hit the field goal later, and then you get one more field goal that you take where you go for it on 4th down and you don't convert, at the 11-yard line, I think it was, in the late 3rd, early 4th quarter. Mm-hmm. And you've got a lead. And instead, how many times did Ole Miss go for it on 4th down? Was it 6? I got to scroll back through the box score. I've got it here in just a second. 4th down attempts in the ball game. Ole Miss, they went for it 4 times. They were 2 for 4. Ole Miss was 0 for 3 in the red zone with a missed field goal and 2 didn't convert on 4th downs. You can't be 0 for 3 in the red zone. If in those 3 red zone trips you kick 3 field goals, you'd rather have touchdowns than field goals, but if you kick 3 field goals, guess what? You're at a spot right now where you're hosting a playoff game if you beat Mississippi State on Friday. You didn't kick those field goals. You didn't take those points. You didn't convert on the one that you did. You went 0 for 3 in the red zone, and now you are looking for a miracle of all miracles to have a chance just to get in.
So, you guys willing to admit that I was right about something, by the way?
Maybe.
Should have kept Judkins. Should have just paid him the money.
It wasn't a money thing.
It had, whatever it was.
It wasn't a money thing.
It had to be smoothed over. You'd be undefeated. You'd be undefeated
Probably
if he was
so.
on the team.
In fact, it would have been better for Ole Miss, and it would have been better for Quinshon Judkins.
Agreed.
He would have had a significantly better year at Ole Miss because he would have been the featured back than he has had at Ohio State.
What do you have? Because they don't play the backs that they pay the most money on this year's team, so... I mean, that's something...
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, but that's something that needs to be talked about at length because all benefit of the doubt, the trust the coaches guy out there, your ammo's been taken away. The running back position at Ole Miss this year was handled atrociously, regardless of the angle you want to take from it. Regardless of the angle. There is no explanation that is adequate for what happened with the running back position at Ole Miss this year, and it cost them games. Whether you want to bring it all the way back to letting Quinshon walk or however you want to categorize that situation, to how they handled the position this year. They bring in Parrish, and playing Parrish over Bentley and Amos, for example, that was a fine decision. He was a good back who's played a lot of football, but they gave him carries and treated him like he was Derrick Henry and not 180 pounds. So that part of it was mismanaged to begin with. And his backup was a walk-on. Instead of the veteran that's been in your system that you paid a lot of money to come back, and the 1,000-yard rusher at the FBS level a year ago that you paid money to come in, was a walk-on ahead of those two guys. Parrish gets hurt, banged up anyway, so Bentley has to play in the LSU game, and he shows you that he still got it. Right? Or at least to some degree, he still got that home run hitting explosiveness that you saw the year prior. The only 100-yard rushing game for Ole Miss this season was Bentley in that game, and he still didn't get the bulk of the carries that night. But you saw that, wait a minute, okay, the walk-on that they've been playing in front of him, and even Parrish can't do that, right? They can't do that. And then Parrish gets hurt. And for some reason, Bentley still can't get carries, but when he does against Georgia, he scores a red zone touchdown. Imagine that. They'd score a red zone touchdown. Couldn't do that on Saturday. And he's effective catching the ball out of the backfield. So there again, you see that, hey, this guy can help you. He can help you. And then you go to Gainesville, and instead of playing him at all, he gets 0 snaps whatsoever. You convert your 7th best wide receiver-ish, who joined your team during training camp, who's very small, God bless him, not a big guy, to running back, and he gets the bulk of the snaps at running back in a game that you have to win to make the playoff. And then you stand there yesterday and say, Bentley's just not consistent enough. Okay. So the veteran that's been in your system that you had to pay to keep is not consistent enough. But a wide receiver, converted wide receiver in the bye week is? So Ulysses Bentley's not consistent enough. But Amos, the guy that ran for 1,000 yards a year ago, who you paid to come to Ole Miss, can't get any snaps ahead of walk-ons? So it's either you grossly misevaluated him, which is a problem. You can't develop Bentley over walk-ons, which is a problem. Or you mismanage the entire position and let personal something get in the way, which is a problem. All of the ammunition of trust the coaches was taken away when Bentley got opportunities and showed you that the explosiveness was still there. And the answers have been insulting to your intelligence. Consistency, he's not consistent enough, so you play a receiver at running back instead? That makes no sense. The entire running back room all season was handled stupidly, and that is the apt word for it. The whole situation in position group, it was done stupidly all season long.
And to me, the worst thing about this is this. He's returning kicks, right?
He's out there returning kicks.
Like, if you're going to go this route and you're not going to give him any carries, just don't dress him. And then you can pound that off on his whatever. He hasn't done what you can say whatever you want. People will like, well, he's not on the team. But when you put him out there and you let him return kicks, that is just I can't, there's no other word to use. It's idiotic. It makes no sense.
Here's my thought on Bentley. And I think this is I don't think this is unreasonable. I don't think that Ulysses Bentley, the fourth, is an every down back in the SEC. I don't. And somebody posted it somewhere or something, and they were showing, if you take the long run that he had against LSU out of his numbers, then he's only averaging about 3 yards a carry. Okay, that's not great. But here's what he gives you that no other back on this team gives you. And that is home run ability, home run potential. Because he may only average 3.3 yards per carry, but the way stats work, you don't get to take the 50-yard play out. And what's the most significant play he has had on the football field this year? It was 50 yards running away from everyone in Baton Rouge. Now, is he going to do that if he gets 15 carries in a game? Is he going to do that 12 times? Of course not. But is there a chance that he breaks one of those for a 30 or 40-yard run? Is there a chance that he breaks two of them for 25-yard runs? Is there a chance that he breaks one of them for an 80-yard house call? Yeah. And he's the only guy on the team that has the ability to do that has RB next to his name. Now, Lane Kiffin was asked today in his press conference about the usage of Ulysses Bentley. I think this has been Garrett asking the question. I have not checked it. I'm just playing it for you. Here you go.
Hey, Lane, I asked you about Bentley yesterday, but I'm an idiot and didn't follow up. So if it's not an off-the-field thing or personal, what's like the football rationale for a guy who, when he did get his extended run, has the longest run of the year for y'all, 50 yards, and has he regressed? Is it a scouting and development issue? Like, what has kept him from being a guy coming into the year was the SEC's highest graded returning running back? What's held him back?
Well, you keep saying, you said this yesterday, this highest graded returning running back. So, I don't know what that really means. So like I said, he's handled it really well. If you want to get into highest graded and all that, look at average per carry this year. So, nothing saying he won't have a great game this week.
Right. I'm just simply asking, when it's a running back needy team, what has kept him? He's healthy enough to return kicks. That's the biggest question we're getting out there from everybody else. Like, what's kept him from getting carries, if you will?
Well, I never said it was a health thing. So it's hard. You got to make hard decisions when you're a head coach, and you can't please everybody. So is what it is. But you want to get into stats and percentages and stuff. We'll look at average per carry this year of all the running backs.
All right.
Average per carry in SEC play. Ulysses Bentley, 4.4. Thomas, the walk-on, 3.9. Parrish, 3.4. Davis, the wide receiver that they played on Saturday, 2.5. Matt Jones, the other walk-on that played in front of him, 1.8 per carry.
I'm going to tip my cap to Ben Garrett. He's the one that asked that question. That was a very pointed question, and then he followed up on it as well, and Lane Kiffin refused to answer the question. He just –
That was a refusal.
He kind of deflected with the, highest grade running back. Come on now. He was one of the most highly thought of running backs returning in the SEC based on his production a year ago that was coming back and was expected to be part of the mix this season. Obviously, it hasn't happened. And to Ben's credit, he followed that question up with yeah, but from a football standpoint, why is he not getting carries? It appears he's healthy enough. And well, I never said he wasn't healthy. You just have to make hard decisions. That answer is not flying for Ole Miss fans. It's just not flying. And it shouldn't.
Especially when you ask them to fund his very large salary.
Yeah. But Lane Kiffin has made it abundantly clear that he is not going to answer the question as to why Ulysses Bentley is not getting carries. He's just not going to. And it is, I mean, right up there with who shot JFK. It's one of the great mysteries of Ole Miss football of all time.